Hello and welcome to another marvelous video. I'm your host Will. We like to talk about He-Man and the Masters of the Universe on this channel, and this video will be no different. But instead of talking about the characters, let's talk about their tools and weapons. Specifically, which weapon and tool may appear in the upcoming film on June 5th, and the character that uses them. Let's dive into the facts, shall we?
Our time for talk is over.
The new Masters of the Universe movie trailer had an insane amount of blink and you miss it details. And the craziest part is that not all of these were human or alien characters. They showed some awesome weapons, battle accessories, and combat abilities. And, I kid you not, several of these are super grounded in the source material, the old cartoons, and the mini comics. Be it Evil-Lyn's magical staff, Skeletor's Havoc staff, or He-Man's Sword of Power. All of them have that old school vibe to them. Hell, even He-Man's Sword of Power looks closer to the classic iconography than the heavily altered version from the '87 live-action film. And in this video, I'm gonna discuss every confirmed weapon, piece of gear, and battle ability that we have seen so far for the good and the bad guys in the upcoming movie. I'll also clearly separate what is officially confirmed from what comes from classic Masters of the Universe lore or trailer-based observation. Let's get to it, shall we?
Now you're ready.
He-Man's Sword of Power. I didn't quite expect it, but the Masters of the Universe trailer really brought out the big guns in a span of about 2 minutes. And of course, the star of all the weapons has to be He-Man's Sword of Power, which isn't just a weapon of great power that turns Adam into He-Man. It has more significance and matters to the story because Adam is left stranded on Earth, and the only way to go back home to Eternia is through the sword because it would show him the way. So, right from the beginning, Adam's sword is of great importance to the story. Furthermore, the trailer does us the favor of showing the sword in action as He-Man and Skeletor fight each other close to the end of the trailer. There's also a complete "I have the power" moment, which to me was pretty damn cool. But what's cooler is that the new sword clearly leans into the classic power sword identity from the animated show and toy line. I'm saying this because in the first big screen He-Man movie, they changed the sword design slightly, while this new version seems much closer to the traditional Masters of the Universe iconography.
Time for talk is over.
Skeletor's Havoc Staff. Skeletor's Havoc Staff is one of the most important weapons in the movie's villain lineup, and it's already visible in official promotional material and merchandise. To be honest, the Havoc Staff looks like the kind of weapon the Dark Lord Skeletor must have intended. In universe, Skeletor's Havoc Staff is his primary magical weapon, and you'll almost always see it topped with the skull of a ram. The staff is probably the most important tool and weapon for Skeletor, but it also serves him as a symbol for dominion, with several magical abilities across different versions of the franchise. For instance, the Dark Lord often uses it as something of a magical conduit, focusing his vast array of dark magical powers on his enemies. As for the actual things he can do with the Havoc Staff in classic lore, you have the usual mystical energy blasts, and then there's the creation of dimensional gateways, illusions, environmental manipulation, and other dark magic tricks depending on the version. Needless to say, in different iterations of the lore, the staff has found itself a different backstory. For instance, in the 2021 Netflix series, the staff was a relic that Prince Keldor selected over the Sword of Power, and it was the constant use of the staff that basically infected him with the corrupting dark power of Havoc. For the 2026 movie though, we should be careful. The staff itself is confirmed, but exact on-screen powers like fire breathing, spying, or any specific magical attack should be treated as classic lore context until the film confirms them. Man-at-Arms Mace, Blaster, and Power Armor. Portrayed by Idris Elba, Duncan, aka Man-at-Arms, will serve He-Man as a major helping hand in his quest against Skeletor and his evil schemes. The upcoming movie is giving serious respect to the cartoons and is adopting quite a few tropes from there, one of which is Man-at-Arms' look. The man's power armor is going to be similar in spirit to the one from the cartoons, and it keeps the idea of Duncan as Eternia's armored master of weapons. Furthermore, Idris Elba's Man-at-Arms has a helmet that is less wide and more rounded, which kinda makes him look less intimidating as Man-at-Arms if I am being honest. It also has green green ear covers and orange accents on the top. His armor's belt and tactical details also make him look like someone who is ready for a full battlefield rather than a simple duel. But the biggest confirmed pieces here are his classic mace and his blaster, both of which match the idea of Duncan as a warrior who blends medieval-style weapons with futuristic Eternian tech. Other visual details, like armor upgrades and any jetpack-style movement in the trailer, should be framed as trailer-observed gear unless the movie itself gives them a clear function. All in all, Duncan seems well equipped to take on whatever is in his way. Evil-Lyn's magical staff. Evil-Lyn's staff, or wand if we're being flexible, is one of the things that I am very excited about, apart from the characters themselves. In the trailers and featurettes themselves, not much was revealed, and all we had was Alison Brie's portrayal of Evil-Lyn, as in, the weapon itself was shown very quickly, so there was not much room to study it properly. But the important thing is that Evil-Lyn is confirmed for the film, and she is still being treated as one of Skeletor's major magical threats. In classic Masters of the Universe lore, Evil-Lyn's staff or wand became one of her most recognizable tools in the entire franchise, and later versions continued with that trope. It was a symbol of her authority and her magical skill. The power she channels through it also helps separate her sorcery from Skeletor's rougher version of spellcraft. However, until the movie fully shows what her staff can do, we should treat the exact design details and magical rules as classic lore context and trailer-based observation, not confirmed 2026 plot fact. Teela's sword and firearm. In the 2026 live-action Masters of the Universe movie, Teela would serve as one of the main heroic characters, and from what has been presented, the film seems to understand the basic assignment with her. She's still the brave fighter we know from the cartoon, a master of weapons, and yes, she can also be part of the battlefield action instead of just standing behind He-Man. Her costume also has a clear connection with the animated version. The white and gold accents are still there, along with the dark red boots, but the movie gives the design a more updated, sorta combat-focused kind of look. She now wears white pants, gold plating on the front of the boots, brown straps around the legs, a sword sheath on her left hip, and a holster for a pistol or blaster on the right. So yeah, she would go beyond serving as eye candy and would get her hands dirty when push comes to shove. Camila Mendez's version also keeps the dark red hair down in most scenes, but promotional material and merchandise makes it clear that the movie is still connecting her to the classic Teela identity. Her confirmed loadout includes a sword and a pistol, which gives her both close-quarter combat and range fighting options. This loadout really makes her feel like the daughter of her adoptive father, Man-at-Arms. Trapjaw's weaponized cyborg arm, hook, claw, and laser gun. Unlike many other characters from the upcoming movie, Trapjaw's design must have given some serious headaches to every department, not just the practical effects people. His right arm was handled by the visual effects team, and it has the good stuff, including interchangeable weapons like a claw, a hook, and a laser gun. So yes, the cyborg mercenary part of him is not cosmetic, and you could say that the man will come with some attachments that would make Prince Adam's life more difficult than it already is. But weirdly enough, the arm was not the biggest problem. The legs took some serious time and effort to be built because the creative teams had to extend the human body in a way that did not move naturally. This, in turn, meant that the whole thing simply did not align with basic anatomy, which raised the question of how to get it to work for a live-action film. You see, normal armor has pivot points at places like the elbow and shoulder, so the body can still bend the way it wants to. Trapjaw's design had to work around these very pivot points, and Sam C. Wilson still had to run, jump, and basically perform all his heavy action scenes as Trapjaw, while ensuring that he did not just trip and fall under the weight of his suit. So, in order to counter this, they made two versions of his clothing, and one version was quite heavy and was used for slower scenes, while a second, rubberized pair was made for stunt work and fight scenes in early pre-visualization. Trapjaw had a sequence where he had to sprint, but Sale told director Travis Knight and the team that Wilson probably could not move that fast while wearing what was basically a pair of calipers. And you know what? This limitation became a blessing in disguise, because it helped shape the new version of Trapjaw into something more mechanical, like he's now more half human and half robot than his previous iterations. This allowed the team to add more obvious robotic elements to the cyborg mercenary. That's why in the trailer, you see that awesome transformation of his mechanical hand with a hook and all. And like the people who worked on Trapjaw, I'm also eager to see the final result on June 5th. Tricops' long-barreled blaster. In the upcoming live-action Masters of the Universe film, Tricops, played by Kojo Ada, has gotten himself a pretty heavy weapons upgrade. However, if you're someone who had a close relationship with his OG toys, you might feel that they actually gave him a weapons betrayal. Either way, the point is that instead of carrying only the classic sword identity from the vintage 1980s figure, he now has this long-barreled blaster. The weapon looks more like a long-range sniper rifle than a standard space gun, but this fits Tricops, because he has always had that tactical cybernetic assassin energy to him, yeah? I mean, the guy literally has a 3-sided rotating visor. He's not Cyclops, he's Tricops. And this new weapon makes sense for a villain who reads the field, tracks targets, and attacks from range before the heroes get too close for comfort. In fact, this new blaster was officially revealed through Mattel's Masters of the Universe Chronicles toy line. The accessory comes with a movie-based Tricops figure, which also includes his famous rotating visor and the official likeness of Kojo Ada. Fisto, Malcolm's giant metal right fist. Fisto, or Malcolm, seems to be getting a fairly grounded treatment in the upcoming movie, at least in terms of how his costume was built. The character is still the super strong guy with a giant metal right fist, because obviously, if you call someone Fisto and then give him normal hands, what are you even doing? Anyway, his outfit is more traditional and is made with leather and urethane armor pieces, so the real puzzle always was that massive fist. According to Sale, there was a lot of back and forth over whether the fist should be done with visual effects, but the costume props department felt they could actually build it. And they did. Someone on that team built every single piece, 3D printed it, and upgraded the thing from looking like a big glove to seeming like a highly engineered machine. This change not only gives metal weight and believability to his fist, but also a degree of logic and physical presence. The design took 6 or 7 months of research and development, and the team even wondered if it should have looked like the Incredible Hulk's hand. Basically one huge solid fist, but that would have limited Johannessen's ability to articulate with it. So yeah, giant weapon hand, but with a degree of range, thereby making Fisto and his fist very, very Masters of the Universe. Ram Man's armored head, battering ram body attack. Now, even if you haven't watched even a single episode of Masters of the Universe, you can know exactly what Ram Man must be about just from his name. The guy turns himself into a blunt force battering ram, and during his charge, he points his head at you, keeps his arms down for some more momentum, and then BAM! Your bones are crushed like glass and stone, and that's his whole thing. Richard Sale described him pretty much that way, and because of this, it became difficult to design him. Like, you must agree that a human battering ram is kinda absurd as a concept. So, bringing him to life, and that too in a manner that looked convincing enough, was a tricky job. What I mean is that you need him to feel like Ram Man from the toy and cartoon, but you also need a real actor inside that suit. One who can emote, talk, react, and do all of these things while not looking like he's been sealed inside a fancy dustbin or something, which means that the headpiece had to turn. In fact, Sale even used the Batman cowl as a comparison. If the head cannot move, the actor is stuck, and that would simply reduce Ram Man to being a helmet with legs instead of being a character. The rest of the armor had the same issue. What I mean is that in the toy and cartoon, his helmet shoulder piece goes all the way over his arms, which looks cool, but in real life, our guy would barely be able to raise his arms, let alone punch anyone. So the team made the armor soft. Everything visible on camera was built from soft urethane foam, which gave him bounce, movement, and a bit of freedom in the shoulders. The panels could shift inside the armor, so he could still do proper Ram Man stuff without struggling with the costume every 2 seconds. For the legs, visual effects helped create his extended stance, but that needed a base. So the textile team made a copper wire style print and foam legs shaped like spring coils. Basically, they just combined toy logic with real-world physics. Roboto's mechanical strength, likely weaponized mechanical body. Roboto in the live-action Masters of the Universe film is confirmed to appear, with Kristen Wiig providing the voice. In classic Masters of the Universe lore, Roboto is essentially a heroic warrior and a weapon all in one, but with good manners. His whole body is built for combat, with an armored mechanical frame that gives him durability, stamina, and one major advantage: he does not feel pain the way a flesh and blood warrior does. Oh, you can hit him, sure, but being a machine being made for war, he would more often than not stand right back up. His transparent chested look also has been one of the character's most famous classic design traits, with his gears, inner mechanisms, and power core visible while he fights. I always liked this pesky little detail because it made Roboto Eternia's version of a battle computer. And yes, in older versions of the toy and lore, his mechanical arm is modular. He can switch between attachments such as a claw, a laser gun, or an axe, which gives him options in close combat and ranged fights. In terms of strength, he isn't comparable to the likes of He-Man or She-Ra, but having said that, Roboto's heavy engineering allows him to smash through mechanical defenses and take on robotic forces with proper brute strength. He also brings some degree of tactical value to He-Man and his team, because, thanks to his computer-like brain, he can read weak points and help coordinate strategy with Man-at-Arms. For the 2026 movie though, his presence is confirmed, while the exact movie version of his weapons should be treated as likely classic lore influence until the film fully shows them. Spikor's spikes. Spiked body, likely ball and chain flail. The thing about Spikor is that it is very difficult to use hand-to-hand combat against him, and since most cartoon-based films are not too big on using guns and bullets to kill the bad guys, or even the good guys, without hand-to-hand combat, it gets difficult to stop Spikor. I mean, the man's head and torso are covered in razor-sharp spikes, so even a normal punch will only end up hurting the attacker. In the classic version, he also had a trident in place of his left hand, and depending on the version, that trident could extend and even fire a laser beam. For the 2026 live-action Masters of the Universe film, Spikor appears to be getting a major redesign. Reports and merchandise-based looks suggest that instead of only sticking to the older removable trident-style weapon, the movie version may give him a more brutal spiked ball and chain style weapon. So the left-hand weapon idea still seems to be there, but now it appears more intimidating and more live-action friendly. I'm sure He-Man and the Masters of the Universe would do their best not to stand within arm's reach of this purple disaster. His body design has also been modernized. The original idea of his spikes being separate, magically infused armor has often shifted across versions, and for the movie design, the spikes seem to be treated as a much more organic part of his silhouette. Still, until an official source fully breaks down Spikor's weapon, this one should be framed as likely merch trailer-based observation rather than a locked-in movie fact. Mekaneck's extending neck, recon ability. In the 2026 live-action film, James Wilkinson's Mekaneck retains the old bionic neck extension idea, paired with a classic role of being He-Man's long-range recon guy. Basically, while everyone else is ready to punch evil in the face, Mekaneck can scout the battlefield without himself becoming a free target for the bad guys. That's a smart man. Weird neck, but a smart man. Interestingly, unlike many Masters of the Universe characters, there's a degree of lore behind his powers. You see, after Mekaneck suffered a severe near-fatal injury in classic continuity, Man-at-Arms engineered the cybernetic construct that gave him this ability. So what was supposed to be an upgrade done for the purpose of survival actually became something of a tactical tool. As the human periscope, Mekaneck uses telescopic vision to observe enemy movement from a safe distance and then report it to his comrades. The film design seems to be staying grounded in the toy design, but the new Mekaneck also appears to have a more battle-ready look. Having said that, he's not really a frontline bruiser either. And that's cool. I mean, let's face it, not every hero needs to be built like a castle wall. His neck extension helps with scouting, support, and evading enemy fire. And yes, based on classic lore, he can also use that flanged helmet for surprise headbutts. But the exact length and exact movie action scenes should be treated carefully until the film confirms them. Battlecat's claws, teeth, armor charge, saddle, and head armor. In the 2026 live-action Masters of the Universe film, Battlecat seems to be getting the treatment he always needed for a modern film with good VFX and CGI. The 26 Battlecat is faithful to the old design, but built with a more lifelike CGI body. Official merchandise confirms the broad design idea. Battlecat has a muscular sculpt, opposable jaw, removable saddle, and head armor. This only means that there could be some really awesome Battlecat moments in the upcoming summer blockbuster. He is He-Man's war mount, and transforms into Battlecat when Prince Adam transforms into He-Man. In his transformed state, Battlecat is a massive green tiger with bold orange stripes, a heavy muscular frame, sharp white fangs, visible teeth, and a jaw that can actually emote and bite with force you and I probably cannot imagine. His claws are also a major part of his combat style, since he can slash through enemies and tear into metal and stone in classic action logic. His charge is another big part of the design. As I said, Battlecat acts as He-Man He-Man's main mount, and the film's merchandise and trailer language clearly position him as a combat-ready beast who can break enemy lines. You know, kinda like a raging bull charging through a crowd. As for the armor, he has a sculpted red helmet or visor that fits snugly over his green tiger face, along with a saddle that keeps him locked into the classic He-Man battle mount identity. Apart from these, I gotta mention 3 more characters who are definitely worth watching because they could have some awesome weapons and abilities, though their specific movie loadouts have not been fully confirmed yet. So, at number 14, we got Goatman's brute strength and horns. But yeah, his specific weapon has not been confirmed, much like the next entry on our list. That is Mossman's plant nature powers. That's pretty much self-explanatory, I think. Next up, and the last one on the list, is the great King Randor and his royal sword. While we don't know much about King Randor and his weapons, the movie does confirm King Randor as part of the story. His royal guard also seems to be having some cool weaponry, and in a kingdom like Eternia, the royal guard could itself be treated as a weapon of the crown. But to keep things 100% accurate, Goatman, Mossman, and King Randor should be described as characters whose exact weapons or action loadouts are still not fully confirmed through the same official channels as He-Man, Man-at-Arms, Teela, Tricops, Trapjaw, Fisto, Ram-Man, and Battlecat. And that was all in this one, folks. If you liked the video, please consider hitting the like and subscribe buttons. Those 2 small clicks from you will help us tremendously in bringing you more of these awesome videos. Stay safe and have a good one.